In April, South Dakota's largest hunger relief organization felt the Trump administration's federal cuts, saying they led to a 14% reduction in their food inventory and 148,000 meals lost in that month alone. Today, Feeding South Dakota's inventory got a boost after receiving a generous donation. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints donated nearly 40,000 pounds of food to the organization. This isn't the church's first generous donation. Thomas Worsley is the chairman of the Feeding South Dakota Board of Directors and says the church has donated roughly 650,000 pounds of food to the state over the last 6 years. The church produces, cans, and packages food in Salt Lake City and is happy to help support Feeding South Dakota.
We use that food to care for members, and the donation that's coming here today is surplus food, the extra food that hasn't been needed, and the church donates many trucks of food to different food banks across the United States with a surplus from the food that they produce.
Worsley said he anticipates this won't be the last donation they receive from the church.